According to this, it's on Facebook, and according to this, we're live.
Don't say anything.
Yes, we are live.
Don't say anything
It's their
bad.
volume. That's the important part. Live is one thing, volume is another.
You got some volume on your mic.
Oh, wait, I've got my mic work?
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're good.
Holy shnikes.
Okay, we're ready.
I edited myself. Yeah.
Dan, start the show, buddy.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coaching Over Coffee. I'm Coach Dan, and from right to left, you have Coach Ryan sipping on his delicious coffee. You have Coach KC, and our special guest today, as you can tell by the title of today, we are a table with two Ryans today. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan with an N. Welcome to the podcast.
How about
Well, I
Ryan
hope
with
it has
two
an
N's?
N.
Two N's.
Two N's, yeah.
Don't yell at me.
The preferred lady way, I think that's
The preferred lady
what
way.
I like to put it as.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's nice to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, give us Reader's Digest version of who you are.
the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
Cliff Notes.
Not the Dan version.
No.
No. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I feel like I've lived a lot of lives in a very short period of time. So I have my degree as a therapist. I've been a publicist. I'm currently a freelance writer. I'm also a published author. So a lot of just different things, which people think are really great accomplishments, and they are, but they could also be misconstrued as she does not know what she wants to do. So let's just try a whole bunch of different things and see what sticks.
What's your favorite?
I like them all in different ways. I think being a therapist was probably one of the most fulfilling things that I did, obviously because you're helping somebody's personal growth and change. So that was definitely something that was very meaningful to me. But, you know, working as a publicist, you know, there's a lot of things on the go. You learn to be really flexible. If you've got great people around you, which I did, it was a lot of fun to do. You know, and being an author is way more self-loathing than I thought it would be, because it's really just you and the page, and some days it flows really well and other days you just stare at a computer for.
Which gives you more pressure? There's two good questions already so far.
No, look at you, you're on fire.
I used them all.
I actually think being a writer is probably the most pressure because it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in a session with a client, or I'm, you know, working with someone on their goals of what they want to do for their career, it's very different because you're having a vibe with somebody else.
Sure.
So you're feeding off of that energy. When it's just you, if you're having a great day, it's flowing really well. If it's not, then you feel an enormous amount of pressure to be in a different space than you're at. So
Sure.
it's definitely difficult to kind of get into that space if you're feeling that way about yourself and what you're doing. So
Did you find that when you were writing, you were trying to give yourself like a minimum amount of words per day, and that was the stressful part is trying to feel like you had to put that many on a page?
my way of doing it, because I write very memoir style,
Okay.
is to do more of like finishing a thought. So if I'm talking about a relationship that I was in, I want to complete what that relationship looked like. Obviously, on the first draft, it looks way different than down the line, because usually I'm writing out of anger. And so it shifts from time to time. But I think for me, it's more about completing a thought and completing an emotion, which is sometimes that's done in many words. Sometimes it's done in few. It just kind of depends on what that was at the time. Even if it's longer or shorter, that doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't meaningful. It just changes the tone. So.
Okay. Why did you want to write a book?
Well, I was in a very destructive relationship at the time, and I had kind of just noticed a pattern of like, wow, I really like a red flag. It's like super appealing to me. So, and I know that I'm not the only woman that feels that way. So let's write about it and talk about it. So my mom.
Is it a gender thing? Because I think men do too.
Everyone that probably has to do a little work on themselves is a little attracted to a red flag.
So I have a question with a therapy standpoint, because you say like destructive relationship. I've heard that most people are attracted to people that have the one characteristic thing that they lack.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's certainly true. I mean, when I started out in that relationship, one of the things that I really liked about it was that he really understood my love for art and my love for writing, and he encouraged me to do that. Whereas people that I had been with before, I had kind of hidden that away because I wasn't super confident about it. So he was definitely like, oh my gosh, no, let's talk about it. Let's do this. And, lulled me into that sense of like, oh, this is really great. And then it became not so great later. But I think that that's partially true. I mean, has that been your experience?
As I do some analyzation of it sometimes, I think, but mostly personal too, is like, if you're like a very outgoing person or somebody that lacks confidence, I'm a very confident person in myself. So maybe somebody's attracted to something like that. But I don't know. I haven't gone back to like past relationships and be like, hey, how are they fucked up? You know? What did I bring to the table type thing?
Well, that's a process when you do it. And sometimes it goes really well and you figure out some new stuff about yourself, which is great. And then sometimes there's some wallowing in there about, wish that would have been different.
Yeah.
How do you think fitness plays a role with like, especially, I mean, like, let's talk about like psychology of it all. Like, where do you think people are in the holidays, when it comes to their mindset and their own self-deprecation, or hey, where are they at with like self-confidence and fitness? Like, where does that stem from? Or do you think, how does that play a role holiday time with people, taking it out of themselves or making themselves not feel like a priority?
I think holidays are always a really stressful time, whether it's like, it's the end of the year. So either you're trying to get a lot of work done in a short period of time before everybody kind of goes. You've got family over, which depending on your family dynamic can either be really great or horrible. I think that when it comes to fitness, I think there is a level of self-deprecation that a lot of people have because it is the kind of this mindset of like, oh God, it's the holidays. Like, let me get really fit in like a month. Let me make this change. But it's not a change that's coming out of, I actually want to be different. It's a change that's coming out of like, let me just see what I can do really fast, or I'm not in control of many things that are happening right now, so let me just grab onto this, and hopefully this will just fix all my problems, which, I mean, it's going to make you feel better. Certainly if you start moving your body and you start eating better, you'll see all of that. But if it's going to be a real, true change, you have to want it for the long term. It's not something that's short term. But that's definitely something that I've learned through working with Casey, is that's something. This is the longest I've ever been committed to working out. So I started, I think, in July, right? I started coming with my mom, and this has been the longest that I've ever been in one space to do this, because I was finally ready to just say, okay, you're gonna get over this weird fear you have of changing and just kind of go with it. And success is okay. I think that's something that people don't talk about a lot, is that I don't think a lot of people are afraid of failure, but I think they're definitely afraid of succeeding.
You don't think they're afraid of failing?
No, I'm not, but I'm terrified of success.
Okay.
So for me, I won't allow myself to fail at anything that I actually try to do. It's just not in me to do it. Sometimes it's my Capricorn energy, but most of the time it's just because I don't obviously like the feeling of failing. Nobody really does. So, but if I know I'm not maybe going to do well at something, or I'm very scared of it, I just won't even try. So I don't even put failure on the table, because I don't do it. So I'm not afraid of failing because I know that I won't, but I'm afraid of succeeding at another level.
It's like the journey from like where you are to the to the successful point. Okay.
You won't fail because you won't put yourself out there enough to even fail.
Yeah. I think that's something.
I think that's so true, because I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But I think that is a fear of failure.
I think it certainly stems from it. But I think for me, I classify it as fear of success, because my fear is that I don't know what it's going to look like if I succeed.
Sure.
I know what it looks like if I stay the same, and that's comfortable.
Sure.
It's not the best, but it's a comfortable space to be in. If I'm succeeding and I'm working at that, I don't know what that's going to look like. Am I going to lose people along the way? Am I going to change into somebody I don't recognize? Like, there's a lot to take in. And so I just am like, that's too much.
Are those all bad things?
I mean, I think what they are is...
I don't think so.
They're not, but they're different.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who is, despite all of my education, and you'll find this with a lot of therapists, is like, listen, we're really great at helping other people. Sometimes us, we struggle a bit. But I think for me, that was that's been my issue is just if it's too much, I don't want to do it because it feels very uncomfortable for me to be in that space of change. Because change can be wonderful and it can be great, but you changing is like a domino effect. And it pushes a lot of different things that you're not even maybe thinking about. When I've changed careers, when I've decided to push in a different direction, I've lost relationships. And that's, romantic, that's friendship. Those are all things that are very different, even when it comes to being, physically fit. I don't know what it's like to be the goal that I have in my head. I don't know. It's a very abstract thought for me.
Sure.
And the closer I get to it, the more real it becomes. And it's less scary because I have people like Casey who's very supportive. I have family members who are very supportive, but it is scary to think of how different I'm going to be or my body's going to be. And I'm getting more comfortable accepting that, but it is a bit terrifying in the moment when I think about it.
The people that you lose along the way, I think, aren't designed to be there anyway.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think we've all gone through those things where people kind of discourage you from doing certain things, right? Mm-hmm. And then once they root for you. Yeah, do it. And then when you do it, guess what they do?
Don't do it.
They don't do it. You're doing this too much, right?
Yep.
You're working too much. You're not supposed to do it like this. How come you don't use, balance? Everybody likes that word.
Yeah, and I think social media plays a big part in that too. I think, there are a lot of people who root for you just as surface level.
Likes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you get to actually change, it's like, oh, wait, you're a very different person. And I'm like, yeah, you knew I was
How
becoming
do
a
you
different
tackle
person.
that, though? How do you emotionally tackle that?
I mean,
I think that's a big thing for people is I'm getting fit, I'm taking care of myself, I'm being a selfish person now because I want to feel better, I want to be more confident. How do you tackle those relationships that are toxic like that?
I think that even labeling that as selfish is not a term that should be used.
Sure.
You're just taking care of yourself. There's nothing selfish about that because if you're not taking care of yourself, you certainly can't take care of other people,
Sure,
or pets, or anything else in your life. So I think we've gone a weird direction with not necessarily saying that things are selfish when they're not. You're doing something natural, taking care of your body.
Sure.
What you put into it, that's natural. Don't confuse that with being selfish. But people are taught all the time to give. And then when people stop giving, people are like, whoa, wait a minute. You're not the oh my gosh, that was a knowing look, whatever that was between.
We've just talked about that before. So
too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
Has that been something that you've experienced too?
Not necessarily me. I think he's experienced that quite a bit.
Yeah.
In terms of being a business owner.
I think somebody sent me a quote or something the other day. It was when you guys run your own business, right, you feel bad when you aren't able to do all the things that you used to do, or you didn't respond to that text quick enough, or you didn't respond to an email, or you couldn't accommodate somebody else's schedule because they changed their schedule and yet you have your own schedule. I think people don't look at you as a person sometimes. I think sometimes they look at you as more of a service, not a human being. And I think sometimes that's a tougher thing, whether you own a convenience shop, whether you own a restaurant, you're a CEO of a company. If you're performing some sort of service for people, I think sometimes it's very not selfish of them, but I think they don't understand what you do on a day-to-day. And when you're in service, you're in service, right? When you're a therapist, what are you doing? Your hours of your day are designed to help and, help correct people. And it's our job too.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of parallels. I actually think a lot of people who are in this industry are therapists. You're not licensed, but you're certainly anybody that comes in during the day, you're dealing with their day, you're dealing with what they've experienced, and you're pushing them in a way that maybe they're not pushed every day, or maybe they weren't really ready to be pushed. Yeah. And it's I noticed that about myself when we work together. Some days are really great, and some days you're like, all right, no.
Let's go.
Come on.
Yep.
You signed up for this.
Meet them where they're at.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. I also think we've talked about how people only see us. I see you for 30. You come every day, so that's a little different. But we see people, I see you 30 minutes a day. So they only see us for like a very small portion of our day. Like they don't see us here till 9:30 at night, and then we're back at 4:30 in the morning. So it's like, oh, you seem off today. It's like, well, no, I'm actually just really tired. You know what I mean?
And sometimes, like, as you guys know, it's emotionally draining, to have dialogues consistently, like you're always on nonstop. And it's my therapist used the word self-imposed when I use the word selfish. Our hours of our day, a lot of it are selfless. If you're a nurse, you're a doctor, you're not doing things for you. You're doing things to help people. I'm not putting us in that category, but I think sometimes the level of effort and energy that we put into people sometimes doesn't get recognized because it is tough. It's tough to go from an older client to a younger kid to a team to a
group
to a group. Yeah, I mean it's a big roller coaster ride, and we have to show up every single day. We get to show up every single day.
Yes,
and it's not boohoo.
How have you guys been with balancing the personal and the professional? Well, all right.
there isn't a lot of balance. I don't think.
Was vodka in this.
Well, I mean that you've got to work for the rest of the day, but
So who's going to answer that question?
You haven't said anything.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, Dan.
Hot seat.
I told you I was gonna say something to you.
First, I think he should identify if there is balance in his life.
No. There's I don't think I've had balance in 23 years. Okay, so in this day to day, there is not balance. And actually, I'm not even going to say this day to day. If you want something bad enough, you're not going to get balance.
Did I send you guys that video?
Which one? Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
I sent you a video midnight last night about balance.
Okay. I didn't watch it yet.
You guys should watch it. It's like...
Because here's my reason for it, is that anything that I've ever wanted in my life, whether it's like in the military or college degree or certain jobs or certain goals like racing or whatnot, I've had to put every single thing on the back burner in order to achieve that goal. And there are a fucking thimbleful of people in my life that literally understand what I'm doing. And I mean like 5. 2 of them sit right here. Okay. 2 of them sit right here. The other 3, you know who you are. But the thing that really sucks is at the end of the day, when it's not being the fucking anomaly that sucks. It's the fact that that all of the goals that you're trying to achieve are going to cost so much. Is it worth the price? But the hardest part is having to say, yes, everything I've done, the price was worth paying. I say that now. My biggest fear is always been being alone at the end. So is that going to be the price I'm willing to pay when I'm 60 or 70? We'll see.
Well, what about living a life in extremes is something that appeals to you? Because the way that you're talking about it, it's very all or nothing. So what about that is something you like?
Shit, we're getting deep.
Yeah,
I know.
I guess so.
Being the last of 6 sucks because you have to follow a shitstorm of siblings who are either not trying to strive or have fucked up so much. You have to almost be the kid to make up for that. For me also, there is the constant need to one up my own stuff because you can't just do one thing. I can't just do a 5K and high five myself. It's like, okay, here's a 5K. Now I'm going to run 48 hours, 48 miles in 48 hours, 3-4 years in a row in a blizzard. Oh, that's not good enough. Let me run, 34 miles and lose like 6 toenails. Oh, that's not good enough. 2 weeks before that, I crap my pants on a marathon. Yes, let's do.
Was that enough?
That was not enough.
Apparently not.
And that's the thing is that that's not enough. And the worst part is that finding the right balance in it doesn't exist. But then the other thing is finding the right people who completely understand and give you the nod and are like, go.
Is it tough I think when you do those extreme things, at the end of it, you're searching for something that's going to give you ultimate fulfillment, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's chasing,
Right?
It's chasing the dragon.
Like validation.
Yeah, like it is chasing the dragon. Like I think that that's one of the reasons I never left wrestling, was because I've never had that final match where I was like, I can quit. Instead, it's always like, okay, well, I can quit, but I could do something really good with that person over there, you know. And it's like, for me, that's the unbalance, because I know doing that will cost me time with my kid.
What's it like getting to the end of a race like that? You guys have both done it. Like, especially if you, I don't know, you're running all these miles and then you cross the finish line. Like, have you ever been in an experience like that and then it's no one's there to support you? So you like cross that finish line and then you're like, well, now what?
Him and I both ran marathons without anybody there at the end to be like, hey, high five.
Good
or
job.
like take your picture. I think sometimes that's very empty. Like you look for, like you said, like we've talked about it like 1,000 times, doing your greatest accomplishment and going home and being by yourself.
Yeah.
That's tough sometimes. But hang on.
Yeah,
And I
go
don't
ahead.
think that you need other people around you, because I think we lean on the fact that I need somebody there to do that stuff. Because if you can't give it to yourself, how do you expect to get it from somebody else?
Yeah.
That was very intellectual, wasn't it?
Yeah, you did well.
Thank you. That's like 1.5 years of therapy once a week.
Well done.
Thank you. The product of the product.
Shout out to therapists.
It's the best.
Shout
and
out to
also
therapists.
the
Thanks,
worst.
Steve. So we did the 4x4x48 together. We were talking about it at dinner last night, where he and I were cold and miserable and shivering, and sometimes like our last the last 4 runs were literally 20 degrees, 40 degrees and snowing, raining, and then almost 70 degrees.
Do you know what that is? So it's
Yeah.
4 miles every 4
I was
hours
just
for
going to go
48
with that. I
hours.
was like,
Yeah.
all right.
It's
That's
intense.
Okay.
Yeah. And we like finished it, and the worst part for me was I went back to my apartment alone, and I sat there and I was just like, man, I miss my boy. Like, this sucks. And then the next day we're in at 5 a.m. giving everyone a ladder workout. There have been times where I have done races and gone by myself and left by myself. The crossing the finish line or jumping the fire, that's not the hard part. It's all of the miles in between, especially doing an ultra when you're alone in your own head for 12 or 13 hours and you have to process all of the dumb shit that you've done, as strange as that sounds. And they're like, your music dies and it's you on a mountain for 10 hours by yourself, pal. I hope you're ready, you know, and that's the hard part. And if I have been blessed that I've had people at my finish line.
What about Casey now?
Yeah.
She's dodging it.
What?
Ooh.
What was the question?
It was the balance thing.
Yeah.
Like how do you
I don't know. I think I used to get really mad at you guys when I wasn't like completely in this about balance, and I would preach. Like I would get so stressed out about like you sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, and now that's me. So I think I just understand it more. So, and I don't think that a lot of people quite understand why we say that like there's no such thing as balance, but like this is a business, and I think like when you run your own business, as we all do within this business in itself, like you can't necessarily have balance based on what your goals are, if that makes sense. Like if you want to be the best, I think you have to sacrifice a lot of things along the way. So I don't think I have balance. I think you know that. Because every day when we arrive, I ask you how many hours of sleep you got, and then you ask me the same question. So
Yeah, we've kind of flipped. At the beginning
Yeah.
when I started working out, I was getting like maybe like 4 hours of sleep at max. And
Sure.
I was all kinds of thrown off, and now we've kind of flipped.
Yep.
I'm getting a good, 6 to 7 hours.
I can sleep.
How'd you make that shift?
It was a combination of things. Well, first of all, I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything medically wrong. So I did go to my doctor. I got blood work done. Everything was kind of okay. And so I think it was just stress that I was experiencing. Working out, I think, really helped. Because
your second day, I was
yeah.
like, how many hours
Yeah.
did you sleep last night? You were like 7. I
Yeah,
was like,
it was
what?
a lot. Because I think it was just working my body, and then I've been changing, food, and a lot of people were like, well, just take like meds, and I'm like, I don't have anything against medication. Sometimes I think my body is meant to sleep.
Sure.
So there's something that I'm doing, consciously or subconsciously, that is preventing that from happening. So let's let's cross off all of these options. And then if that still isn't working, then we explore medication or something else. But luckily for me, I think it was just a combination of working out. I started doing a lot of more meditation, and that was really helpful for me as well. So yeah, I'm sorry that you're experiencing that.
That's okay.
It's not fun.
What do you think about balance? Do you have a definition for it?
Love it, because I have it now.
Do you think we should go through like stages in our life where we're not balanced, or do you think we should just, search for this esoteric type of thing that might not be there?
I think you have to figure out why you don't have the balance. So if you're getting a business off the ground, that's one thing. You're going to be doing a lot of hours. There's not going to be balance because
Sure.
that's what it takes to achieve that. But you know that. That's like the goal.
Sure.
If you're doing lots of other things because you're living in extremes or you're, just pushing yourself, I guess the question that I would ask you, and you don't have to answer this now because it's
Long-winded.
is just simply to say, when is it going to be enough?
I get that question all the time.
And I think like that's, when is it enough? And I've had those moments where I've just had to say, this is enough.
Yeah.
And I sometimes it's more of like, you are enough, and then sometimes it's like, enough.
Sure.
This can't continue because I can't be this person and live a life that I want to live. So I love balance, but it took me a long time to figure out what that even looked like.
Yeah.
What is balance for me? Because it's totally different for every person. Not everybody's going to get up and meditate and eat well, go work out, go do your 8 hours a day, leave feeling refreshed. Like that's not everybody's life.
Yeah.
So balance looks different to different people. So I think part of, when you have people who are kind of coming and going or not understanding what you're doing, I mean, that's because they don't understand your balance and they don't understand your drive. And they think what you're doing is unhealthy, and part of it might be, but also part of it is you. This is how you function. And if your life is going pretty well, then, you're figuring out what balance means to you, and that's personal. There's nothing wrong with that.
It could always be a lot worse.
Yeah,
true.
We could be on the polar opposite, not ambitious, or, sitting on the couch and can't get off of it and can't do, we don't want to, do certain things. What advice would you give to people looking for balance then?
I think it would just be to kind of figure out what's your ultimate goal. So if you look at your life and you think about what it is, even if it's somebody who's experiencing a lot of depression and can't really get off the couch, or, whatever that means for them, what they're struggling with, maybe it's, okay, today I've decided that I'm going to get up and go take a shower. I'm going to sit the rest of the day, but I'm going to go up and I'm going to do this. Okay, that's more balance. So you're figuring it out step by step what you need to do, and that's great. I think it's just a matter of figuring out, when you look at your life long term, what do you want? Not like, what do you think it's going to be like if you're going down the path? What do you want?
Yeah.
And then you weave your life in to kind of match that as much as you can. Because it's not all going to match up, because there's so many different variables that you can't control, but you can control some of what you're doing. So figure out what you want, and then, start to create a life that reflects that want. That would be my advice.
Okay.
So looking
Good
at
advice.
you, kid.
I have a question for everybody, but I want you to go first.
Okay.
Can you tell us because I obviously know you very well. Can you tell us what your best quality is and then what your worst quality is about yourself?
Oh, I was leaning back in the chair. I think my best quality is my ability to listen. I think that's probably one of my better qualities.
You're very good at that.
I think one of my worst qualities is
That was a big sigh.
Well, yeah. I give up very easily, but people do not know that about me. I have a lot of things that I struggle with, but it's very internal. And if I trust you enough, I will share it with you. But there are things like, if people read my journal, they'd be like, oh my God, like, are you okay? I'd be like, well, I wasn't that day.
But that's okay though, too. It's
Yeah.
not like you're not a robot. You're not going to
you're
have
not.
great days.
I think if, I mean, Yeah, so that would be I would say my best,
Okay.
my best and worst.
Dan, your turn.
Kind of hate you for this question.
It's okay.
I think my best quality is, is that I will just continue to go. You know what I mean? Like I do believe that there are moments where I've wanted to quit, but then just continue to go in certain situations. I believe that is a great quality because that's what's gotten me through school and races and tough times before, is that, getting knocked to the ground and then standing back up, that's one of my qualities. My worst one, I don't know how to let go of guilt, whether it's real guilt for the horrible things that I perceive that I've done, or whether it's perceived guilt over things that I really had no control over. I think that that's probably my worst quality, is that, and that carries on into like friendships and relationships, whether it's like, family relationships or romantic relationships. I carry that guilt, and no matter how many years of therapy I've gone through, I can't seem to just, so it has affected my existence.
Okay.
So,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
Your turn.
I really want to unpack that. We're not going to, but I really want to unpack that.
Told you you're going to learn a lot about Dan today.
My tattooed on my arm, it's my heart is my best characteristic because I care way too much about everybody and not myself, and that's my worst characteristic too. Because I would rather do things for everybody else, and that becomes self-deprecating sometimes.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, you just keep going. I think that's a great characteristic, and your worst characteristic too, is that you just don't know how to turn it off. Like you carry everybody's book bag and it's full of shit, and you have to carry it around. I posted a story today, and it was.
I saw that.
Did you watch the whole thing?
I didn't see the end.
You go to a dog. You
Oh,
put
no.
your head on a dog, and it empties
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So if you get a chance, check
Oh.
out my Instagram story today. It was very like, you take on everybody's blackness, right? But then sometimes you don't know how to let that go. I think that's sometimes the worst characteristic.
Yeah.
So
Is it
let's
my
go.
turn? Well, I was kind of, if you were going to ask me, I was going to say something very similar. I think like my best quality is that I'm really empathetic for people, but that's also my worst quality, because I think when you're too empathetic, you care more about other people's emotions than your own. So I will like sacrifice my own happiness to make the people around me happy. And it can be really exhausting and draining. And I think I'm working towards getting much better at that. Like I'm starting to set boundaries with people in my life. We're not going to be 100% there for a long time, but slowly.
Boundaries are great.
Yeah.
They're
And
great.
hard.
Highly recommend them.
They're very hard.
difficult, but
Yeah.
they're, but I find that once you start setting them and you stick to them, it just becomes way easier.
Sure.
And I think that people think sometimes people think boundaries are like, well, if I'm setting a boundary with this person, I'm never talking to them again. No, that's not the boundary. The boundary is you're just not giving them the same energy you were
Yeah.
giving. But you can still be nice and polite. And the funny thing is if that person doesn't notice that anything's changed, well, then it's good you set your boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's not necessary for your, relationship to continue. You just set it and you're like, but you can still be pleasant and
I think sometimes when you set boundaries, there's a little bit of a fear too that you're going to miss the people. Like
Yeah, it's like
you're going to push them too far away that they're not going to be in your life. And then I think you're going to be scared to miss or lose the people that could have been special there for you too.
it's like mourning a loss of someone that's still alive.
Sure.
It's weird.
Wrapping it up because it's 7:20. What advice would you give to somebody that is struggling to become more self-imposed? And I know we kind of talked about it, but like finishing thoughts, the person that's sitting on the couch wants to start something. What do you say to them?
I would say start small and embrace the change and remember that it's not going to be perfect every time and you're not going to get it right the first time. And to just, that's okay. The choices you're making, the positive ones that you're making, they're enough for right now. And remember that you're enough. You're enough. I feel like I needed to tell you that. But I think we don't we don't tell ourselves that enough. I think when we're constantly driving and pushing and changing, we forget that, like, hey, wow, like, you're really different in this moment. That's a really great thing. And you should celebrate that, because that's important. Because if you don't celebrate it, it doesn't feel meaningful. If you don't look at those small changes and think, wow, you know, I was definitely not doing that. I work out 5 days a week now. 6 months ago, I was doing nothing. That's impressive. It was impressive when I was doing it 3 times a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? No, let's do this 5. And, you know, to be able to do that and to say that and to feel accomplished. And, you know, I was thinking the other day when we were, this is a very long-winded wrap up, but I was thinking the other day, I was like, you know, I'm not like as tired when I work out anymore. And then I was like, we probably need to push. I have never said those words ever. I was always the girl in gym class that cheated on a run. I was like, no, I totally did those 2 laps. What are you talking about? Like, that was me. And now it's like, no, I want more weight. I want to, you know, I'll do hammer curls.
You
There you go.
unlock more potential.
Yeah, you do.
But you put in the effort and you got the results, and it comes this vicious cycle.
Well, that's where the balance of, you know, yeah, I'm really proud of this, but I also know that, like, now I'm going to go try something else and see if I can push in that way too.
Yeah.
Extremes are I'm too tired to live in extremes. I'm old now, so I can't do that anymore.
I'm
All right,
not.
Dan, you wrap the show up, dog.
All right. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
25 days of fitness.
25 days of fitness. Video 2 and 3 drop this weekend. For those who don't know, we will be posting a video. You will post your own video of what we did, tag a friend in it, and for every share on your social medias, we will donate $1 to Lucky Puppy. It is a great cause. It's where, you know, several of our people have gotten their dogs from. They're great people, and it's a great cause. And plus, you know, it's just fun to record yourself doing push-ups, Cindy.
Oh my God, my mom laughing. Oh my God.
You know what? Videos of the day. All right, but yeah. Also, follow us on all of our socials.
Thank you,
And
Ryan,
thank you,
for
Ryan.
coming
Thank
in
you.
today.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
I think you guys, everybody should share the shit out of this video
Yeah.
because there's so much value to it. I don't say that often,
No.
so yeah, do that.
All right, share. All right, let's wrap this up. We got a busy day ahead of us. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Casey, you know what to do. Hit the button on the top.
I keep reaching down like I have extra coffee there, and I don't.